Okay, we are live. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. This is Emily Richards, founder of the Stickman Consultancy. And tonight I am joined by Andrew Hammond, who is the headmaster at Hall School Wimbledon. Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening. Really nice to join you, Emily.
How are you? How's your Thursday evening going?
Oh, it's very good. Yeah, no, as I was just saying earlier, just got back from a couple of days conference, heads conference at the school, sort of HQ, the head office of the schools group that own my school. So yeah, really good to connect with some fellow heads again. I mean, it's just lovely to see them all again.
In the same room, talking about good old days and comparing notes, I bet.
Comparing notes, yeah, it's a cathartic experience. It can be a lonely job at times, so it's nice to see some fellow heads again. It's good. Good.
Great,
Yeah.
and you've had a bit of a rush, so thank you so much for making it here on time and looking so cool, calm, and collected too. So, for those of you who are listening, I'm sure you'd want to hear sort of a little bit of background to Andrew, maybe how you came to where the point you are at now with your career, how you got into the industry in the first place, maybe just a snapshot of your career history.
Sure. Well, it all began in 19...
Are you sitting comfortably?
Then I'll begin. Yeah, it's like Jack and Nori. No, I trained in law. I worked for about 3.5 years for firm solicitors up in a couple of firms actually up in New York. I mean, litigation, civil and criminal litigation. We did a lot of matrimonial stuff, actually, a lot of custody stuff. And I got to be honest with you, Emily, the hour in my week that motivated me most, and that's always a good question, actually, which is the hour that, fills you with the most fire in the belly during your week?
Oh, I love that question.
Yeah, well, it was a question from my dad, actually. I remember I went back one weekend to see my parents and they said, "How's it going?" And I said, "Oh, it's all right. It's okay." And they go, "Oh, just all right." And Dad said, "Well, give me an hour in the week when you're most motivated." And I immediately said 6 till 7 on a Friday night. And that sounds like I'm in the pub, but I wasn't. I was a Cub Scout leader. I was a Scout leader.
Oh.
Loved it. I mean, I went right through Cub Scouts, Venture Scouts, and then I became an Arcaler. And that was the thing that motivated me most. It really was. So, well, I mean, clearly I'm not Bear Grylls, so a full-time Scout leader wasn't really available to me. So I went into teaching instead and retrained. And 24 years later, I'm still very much in the profession. And I had about 15, 16 years working in the Southeast in independent schools, living on site, sort of boarding house master and head of English and drama, director of studies. And that was an interesting job. I loved that job, actually. Deputy head academic and then a head. And then around about 40-ish, I think, I decided to do something difficult. Well, difficult. I mean, it's always difficult, but different in that I wanted to work in a maintained sector school. I went to a very proud to have gone to a lovely state infant and then a junior school and then a state grammar school. So I wanted to find a school that really required some improvement and see if I could really do it. And we did, and it was fabulous. It was a state primary that was in special measures, and I have to say that was probably one of the highlights of my career. I really enjoyed doing that, and then I went from there to a bigger state primary, and then I was approached by Discovery Education to work on to be a senior director there of professional development. And it sounds a bit disconnected, but it isn't, because I've always, all my career, delivered CPD, as it's called, INSET. And I've always authored books and things. So I've always enjoyed doing that. And so it was a great opportunity and I loved it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But you know what? Once you're ahead, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to find something that's going to nourish you as much as this job does.
Oh, what a lovely word to use.
It's nourishing. It's restorative.
Yeah,
it's earth-shatteringly tiring and attritional, but it's very nourishing. And I mean, working great company like Discovery, where I loved it. I mean, this is recently, but there was no recorder club on a Thursday or horse riding club, or going to play chess with the kids at lunchtime. How do you do that? Those little nuggets that keep you going. So I was approached by the brilliant Chatsworth schools to see if I wanted to put my name on a list and go through all the process, which I did. I'm sure they were looking at lots of people, and I was lucky enough to get this current headship, which is a through school. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But no, good to be back in the chair.
Oh, fantastic. And I think that's really only just a tiny slice of what you've done, because am I right in thinking you are an author, as you just briefly mentioned there, and also a speaker as well as, you've got such a full, vibrant CV. It's incredible, really.
Yeah, it's I don't watch much telly. I mean, that sounds awfully virtuous. Oh, I don't do television.
We don't have
But
television.
I just get a bit bored. I get a bit fidgety, to be honest with
Do
you.
you? You can't sit still.
Nightmare for my wife, really, because she'll be, engrossed in a brilliant movie, and I'm sort of, I don't know, walking around or something. But no, I always think writing is easy if you've got something to say, and I've been lucky to get a few opportunities to write educational texts and things, and I love all of that. And then the fiction, which was great, the grisly, ghostly, gruesome supernatural novels. I enjoy that. It's quite a
Wow.
cathartic experience.
Amazing.
It's
Oh
good.
my goodness.
It's a good
Oh,
business.
well, that's another, we need to do a whole other live on that alone.
Yeah, sure. That'd be fun.
Um, so going to Hall School Wimbledon, which, as you say, you are headmaster at now. Tell us what's unique about that school.
Love. I think a good school's built on love, and you work out from there. I've got 4 children, and I want, I've always wanted my own children's teachers to love them like I do and to know them like I do. That sounds so crushingly obvious, but I don't know. Sometimes you don't always get that impression in some schools, perhaps. Maybe that's unfair. I mean, we all act in loco parentis, don't we? We're acting on behalf of parents, and I've never ever met a teacher that doesn't love the children. So, but the systems, the processes, the legacy of this sort of Victorian factory, assembly line of learning is not one for me, actually. And I've spent so many years doing that. I'm talking about those 3 characteristics of factory learning, really, right back to Forster's Act 1870. Mass production, quality assurance, standardization. I'm not sure how much further we've actually come from that, if I'm brutally honest. And it works for widgets, but it doesn't work for little people. So what attracted me to this school is that it really is, and was already practicing the values and the ethos that I've always championed all my career, which is to look at the whole child in front of you. They're not brains on legs, are they? So there's a holistic lens here, and always has been. And I've kind of found where everyone else is. This is where the party was all the time. It's people who have the same values that I do, which is that it's health and self-worth, because that leads to self-discipline, which is everything.
Yes.
Everything. And you're not going to be self-disciplined. You're not going to see the point of trying your hardest and maybe even behaving if you don't have self-worth. So we're very lucky here, actually, Emily, because on all of the children's jerseys, we have the letters HSW, which of course is Hall School Wimbledon. But on my first day, I suddenly realized, of course, that's HSW is health and self-worth, isn't it? So we've got a daily reminder here.
Nice.
And I love that.
Yes.
And it works. It's a big old happy family, really, as school should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's gorgeous to hear this. So in that phrase, I just had to write it down about the sort of factory style approach and that mass production. It works for widgets, but not for little people. Absolutely gorgeous. I think that's so beautiful. In terms of sort of challenges that independent schools or indeed state schools might be facing at the moment, what would you say are the biggest challenges in 2022 and beyond?
Well, I mean, we've come through an existential crisis, really, and I think it's reminded us all of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's that we spend years as educators, talking about self-actualization and creative thinking and all those important things that are very much in our heads. And I think maybe we might have ignored or taken for granted those basic needs of love and fellowship and safety and so forth. And I have always felt that happy children work hard. But you know what? I think there's a good number of unhappy children at the moment and unhappy families, and the mental health pandemic, really, which I think probably no exaggeration to say that is so. I think the challenge that we face is that this Victorian style of delivering of using a metric, really, and very narrow metric of the 3 R's, really, which is let's face it, reading, remembering, and regurgitating. You've got to be really good at that. But it kind of just, hang on a minute, hang on a minute. How is it landing in the how's it landing in the class? And there's a cracking quote from Eric Jensen, American educationist, who I much admire, who said, how we feel is what's real. It's the link to what we think. So come on, let's remember that. And I think now more than ever, I think is the time that we need to really focus on that mental health, positive well-being. So that's a challenge. And I'm talking about grown-ups as well as little people. So the system doesn't really permit us to depart too far from a rather rigid syllabus, which, if I'm going to be brutally honest, if you score great marks in, how does it help you with your marriage? How does that work? How does it make you a more collaborative friend? How does it make you a better colleague? An A star in maths. They're brilliant. I'm not knocking academia. I work in a school, not a shoe shop. It's a proper school. But I do think there are some invisible indicators now, which we really need to grab hold of and do something with. And that's a challenge, because the system isn't really geared up for that.
Yes, absolutely. But your HSW, what was it? Health and
self-worth.
Health, I can't say it. Health and self-worth, is absolutely, underpinning that and supporting that, isn't it? So, obviously, you're doing things at the school to implement it.
It's not incompatible with academic aspirations. Far from it, actually. If you really want the children to reach their potential, whether it's in English, math, science, French, history, geography, whether it's in dance, whether it's in trampolining, whether it's in archery, whether it's in caring, you need to look at the whole child in front of you. And I think myself and my colleagues are very good at that. And consequently, surprise, surprise, we get good grades. But it's not the only thing we're searching for. We don't think the students are the sum of their grades. We think they're more than that. So it's a vibrant place to be. But it's challenging. I mean, of course it's challenging, in lots of shrinking, budgets, all that stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. And what is exciting on the horizon for Hall School Wimbledon at the moment that you're able to talk about?
Well, I've always been interested in values. I'm not going to get all waffly on you. I'm not going to get all ethereal. There's a point behind this that, if you really do value the culture of your school as much as curriculum, so many schools place curriculum in front of culture. I think that's the wrong way around, actually, personally. And how is a culture delivered? Well, you can't teach it. You model it. You can't test it through examinations. It's tested long after you leave school, the efficacy of your school's culture, how we do things around here. And so we've kind of launched not a culture review, really, but we really have looked at our values. Well, the problem, of course, the challenge, of course, is that so many schools have the same values on their website. I mean, we all value the same. Of course we do. What interests me is how you lift those values from the page and live them and track them without using percentages, for heaven's sake. I mean, I don't want children to go home with a B- in curiosity. I mean, what's that about? They were born with an A. So it's not that. But so that's an exciting thing, is how we're now lifting from the page, looking at the cultural assets that we have, whether it's assemblies, whether it's case studies, whether it's circle time, the children themselves, the staff, there's lots of assets. There's lots of levers you can pull and push to check the efficacy of your school culture, that it's working and it's having the impact you want it to have, not just on the grades, but on their joie de vivre, on their perception of themselves and others. So we're really forging ahead and doing something really different with that. And then, I've always said it isn't how smart are you that counts, it's how are you smart. And I don't know how many schools ask that question. I think the question, an awful lot of schools, I think, ask a more conveniently measurable question, which is how smart are you? What's your IQ score and all that nonsense. And it is nonsense. It's nonsense. I mean, the children are coached for some of those papers anyway. So no, we ask, how are you smart? The challenge is, well, if you're going to ask that question, and brace yourself for a whole myriad of different answers, how are you smart? So our challenge now, and we're really excited about that, is how you can keep a broad, balanced curriculum. We've increased our after-school clubs from about 4 or 5 to, I think, 24 is the last count. Different opportunities to try and find your thing, and everybody needs a thing. And, so that's really, so small school, big opportunities to do lots of different things to find the one that grabs you. And I've found my thing, and I'm very lucky. that not
Yes.
everybody does, you know.
Yeah, I love that question. How are you smart? And if I may ask you that, Andrew, can you answer that? How are you
How am
smart?
I smart?
Yeah.
No one's ever asked me that, Emily. You've
Dare I?
completely
Dare I? I
floored
thought,
me.
shall I or shan't I? I think I will. Yes.
Okay, come on then. Let's be a little bit conceited for a moment. I think I've got a decent understanding of childhood, of how precious it is. Everybody says to me, you know, life's short. You've got to get on with it. Come on, if we're very lucky and we live well, if we live well, then I think life is long. But childhood is short, and it's getting shorter. And we've got to stop calibrating it. You know, we've got to stop measuring it. So I think if I can say I'm smart, I have empathy, I have a bit of that EQ. It's a burden at times. I overthink things. I worry too much, but I care. I have an
Yeah.
enormous capacity to care. That's why we do
Mm,
the job.
yes.
Anyway, that's enough about how I'm smart.
Well, I
Right,
love
okay.
that. I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, but I thought, well, it's such a gorgeous question. I couldn't
It is a
resist.
good question, yeah.
And okay, lovely. And gorgeous David Ward is here as well, from
Right.
Chatsworth, of course. And David's one of our very, very favourite people.
Hi,
And
David.
he's again asked an awesome question, which is, if you had 3 magic wishes in your school, I love this question, David. If you had 3 magic wishes in your school, what would those be?
Oh, they've already come true. They've already been satisfied. The best children that you could possibly work with, who are kind of open and earnest and honest, and they're happy in their own skin. I would wish for staff who are able to see the whole children in front of them, and they do, and they care about that. And I'd wish for parents who are able to have open and honest conversations with us, which they do. And I think it's a partnership. It always has been for me.
Yeah.
And so those would be my wishes, really. And I'm quite chuffed, really, because I found a school where those wishes have come true.
Yay! It's a
It's
match.
always like that every day. I mean, I'm not shocked, you know. But,
Oh, I love your
it's still
enthusiasm.
not true.
And David asked another great question, switched it to, what would your pupils wish for?
Gosh, probably
It's a
even
good
more
one, isn't it?
clubs. I
Sorry.
think I think maybe even more clubs, even more opportunities to
Wow.
find your thing. So I think we need to do more for design technology. I'm really interested in that. We're very good on technology. I think we for a small school, we've got some fantastic technology resources. But so I think that I think. Am I answering this for the children, or am I answering it for me? I'm not sure, because I was going to say some forest schools, some gardening. That's the next phase, whether they want it or not. I
I was going to say, would they say more like a chocolate shop or something?
Well, possibly. I know David's got an ice cream wagon coming, so he's clearly listening to what the people's wishes are. Yeah, I think probably. Yeah, I mean, make sure you. Well, I think I don't know. I think that's probably what they would ask. They'd want more opportunities to do even more things, but not
Amazing.
with hundreds and hundreds of pupils. Let's keep it nice and fighting weight, so that we know everybody. You know, we're not going to change. You know,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
boutique school, if I may say.
Boutique,
It's
gorgeous.
boutique. It's bespoke, and that's the way we
Boutique
want
with
it.
hungry little learners in it, by the sounds of it, which is
I hope
gorgeous.
so.
And on a slightly lighter note, sorry, I'll just go back actually to what you were saying about the cultural, getting those values really embedded at your school. We absolutely endorse that at Stickman, because we help schools to develop their key messages, for example.
Yeah.
And often we see that those can just be a sort of token gesture on a web page. But when it becomes embedded across the school and they're lived and breathed every single day, it's not just a marketing job. It has to be sort of part of the school's DNA. And there's that old quote, which is one of our favourites, which is "Culture eats strategy for breakfast."
Peter Drucker.
Yes, exactly. And we love that, because that's when that becomes powerful for all involved. So I love that that's a focus for you, and that's
Yeah, it is very
something that's
much.
developed. Sorry,
Very
did
much
you?
so. No, it
Very
is very much the focus. And funnily enough, I've just come back, as I said at the top of this, from a heads get together at Chatsworth Schools, the brilliant group that I work for. And what did we discuss? We discussed Peter Drucker's quote, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And
Ah,
we spent the whole morning on our culture. And
yeah,
so again, like-minded, kindred spirits there.
yes.
So I
Yes.
agree. We'd agree with you across the group, actually. And I'm not trying to curry favor. I'm just not like that. I've found not just a school, but I think a group that value culture. We're not just results driven, or even if we are results driven, we know that in order to get the best results,
Yes.
focus on how they're feeling and how they're interacting. It's how we do things around here, isn't it? That's what culture is.
Exactly.
We're
Yes.
good at
Yes.
that.
As you say, modeling that, you know, whatever time of day it is, whatever, you know, whatever's involved. But yeah, so important. And I love that you're doing that.
Trying.
Now, this is more light-hearted question, but what did you want to be when you grew up? So you've done a lot of stuff, as we've discussed.
What do you want to be when you? Right. Gosh. Well, I was quite interested in driving trains and cars. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
so I was quite keen on that idea of maybe being a train driver or a. I think at one point I was very keen to be a bus driver. In fact, when I was very, very young, I was interviewed by mum, and I say interviewed. We had like a cassette tape. I mean, I'm very old, so we had a cassette tape, and I was interviewed as what you want to be, and I'm pretty sure I think I said I wanted to be a traffic light, which is quite interesting.
A traffic light.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, but no, I think my keenness to get into teaching in some description certainly came from honing over years and years and years of, you know, Cub Scout, Venture Scout, all that stuff, and then into teaching.
Yeah.
I know I was in law first, but no, I a whole myriad of different things. You know,
Yeah.
I love that. You know, loads of different things I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Loads of different things really. But I feel that I've chosen the right profession for me, because you can still cherish childhood in this job, which is what it's all about, really.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And if I may, just to wrap things up, the last question actually is a question you highlighted earlier that I believe your dad asked you. What's the hour in your week now when you're most motivated?
Well, it's when I'm teaching. I mean, you know, this job is, let's be brutally honest, is a lot of it is HR. No offense, but I mean, it just is. You know, we all lead difficult and challenging lives. So you know, I'm obviously trying to help with all of that stuff, but as much as I can. And then there's all the, you know, data and results and attainment, all that's important stuff. But no question, I teach at the moment. I mean, I teach various different subjects, but I teach philosophy at the moment and PSHE. I mean, my subjects are English and drama, but, you know, when someone says, what do you teach? I don't say I teach English. I say I teach children. You know, what do you think I teach? But I teach philosophy at the moment, and that's an absolute joy. That is an absolute joy. You know, we debate the big questions. You know, does a bird know it's a bird? Does it need to know? You know, I like those questions because there isn't a right or wrong. You know, it's not that usual binary choice of, you know, are you going to get right or wrong? It's what you think. So it's giving the children a voice, enabling them to articulate what they think, how they feel. So I think that's the hour in my day that motivates me most. Of course it is.
Gorgeous. I love it. And what's
Good.
come through very, very strongly is almost every response you've given me is child-centered. You know, it's and the complete joy around that you so obviously feel. And oh, Julie Keys, you know Julie.
Julie, yeah.
How we do things around here. Our classic
Yeah,
Andrew Hammond quote. Hi, Julie. Hi.
Hi, Julie.
Brilliant. So thank you so much. That has been a joy. And as I say, it just, you know, sort of oozes out of you this complete, you know, joy around what you do. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if anybody would like to reach you after this, whether it's to inquire more about the school or to connect with you personally, what's the best way of them doing that?
Well, just my email's dead easy. It's head@hsw.co.uk. head@hsw.co.uk. Or I'm on Twitter as well a little bit. Andrew J Hammond on the old Twitter sphere. I'd love to hear from people. I'd love to chat about education. I can bore people stiff with putting the educational world to rights. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you so much. A real joy to talk to you. And yeah, hopefully do it again soon. And next time, it feels like we've got so much more to talk about. So
yeah, we've scratched the surface today. Good. Okay.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks all for joining us.
Take care.
Bye.